Hello, and welcome back to the Financial Fitness Bootcamp, the podcast and one-day online course where we keep it real, keep it fun, and help you get your finances into the best shape of your life. I'm your host, Krystal Khali, also known as the most famous woman in the world, musician and money coach, former broke girl, and your personal financial drill sergeant. I'm here to break down everything you actually need to know to build a strong, healthy relationship with money. So whether you're saving for that next big adventure, working on becoming debt-free, or just trying to stop the paycheck to paycheck grind, you're in the right place. I'll be dropping all the hacks, habits, and hard truths to get you financially fit for life, with a little bit of sass and a lot of laughs along the way. So grab your headphones, your favorite beverage of choice, and take some notes because it's time to get that money in shape. This week, 5 lies about money you learned growing up. Story time. The most money I ever made was also the easiest money I ever made. Founding a company worth more than $20 million was easier than running a mom and pop size business worth less than $1 million. Here are 2 things I'm going to tell you that you will probably not believe, but that I know are absolutely true because I've lived them. Number 1, you can create money out of thin air. And number 2, you have something of value right now that could be making you millions of dollars, but you just don't know how to leverage it. So, no shade to our parents, our grandparents, or that one weird uncle who swore gold coins were going to save us all. They did the best they could with what they knew. But if we want to level up, we got to fact check some of these old school money beliefs. Because let's be honest, some of the advice we got about money growing up was about as reliable as our old MySpace passwords. Yes, I know a lot of you out there don't know what MySpace is. If you want to go into a deep dive for those of you under 35, look up the rise and fall of MySpace and you will learn much about human psychology, about business, about startups, about trends, and the power of the like button. You know, my favorite thing about MySpace that I do miss was that when you would go to someone's profile, they would have a song. It was their profile song. We would have our profile song that was like our identity. That was our thing. It was a big deal to choose which song out of the thousands of choices you would have to represent you on your profile. I miss that. Okay, let's break it down. Lie number 1, you have to work hard to be rich. Whew. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if hard work alone made you rich, coal miners and housekeepers would be billionaires. The truth is that hard work is helpful, but it's not sufficient. And when most people say or hear the term hard work, most of us will have never really thought about what it means. We just think hard work. Okay, you got to work hard. You got to work hard. We've all heard you have to work hard. Okay. And me too. And I'm not saying don't work hard, but we have to break down, what does hard work mean in 2025? In today's terms, it usually means long hours doing knowledge work and probably often choosing to work on projects as opposed to doing other things like partying. So evaluating your opportunity costs better and being able to delay gratification, being able to say no to FOMO. So when we say hard work, that term, I don't know if most of us are actually connecting what that really looks like now. So, I think language is very important because it helps shape our mental models and mental frameworks for how we move about in the world and how we behave in the world. And so it's very important to choose words wisely and to use words in a way that shapes your mental frameworks in a way that will get you toward your goal in the most efficient manner. And that's a very long-winded way to say, I really don't believe in using the term hard work, because what it looks like today usually is sitting at a computer. And is sitting at a computer really hard? I don't know. I mean, to me personally, I don't really consider knowledge work, quote unquote, hard. I've definitely had jobs that were hard. I used to work, there was a certain point in my life where I was working back-to-back waitressing shifts. So I would work anywhere from 6 to 8 hours at one job serving, and then I would go do the next job 6 to 8 hours serving as well. And that was when I was just really struggling in my early 20s and just out of college and didn't have the wherewithal to go use my college degree, mostly out of lack of self-confidence. That's a whole other story. But I will tell you right now, working 2 back-to-back serving shifts is hard. Absolutely. There was a time where I was taking any type of job or gig possible. I was doing Uber. I was cleaning houses. I tried to clean houses at a certain point and found out I absolutely hated it. Babysitting, dog walking, starting up businesses. At a certain point, I even tried to sell caskets. Yes, I did. I was not good at it. Okay. And a lot of those jobs I had were during a time when I would almost always have 2 to 3 jobs at a time. Okay, that is definitely hard work. And I do think that there is a place for that when you are at that age, when you're in your early 20s, potentially in college or just out of college, and you don't have much skills, you maybe don't have that big of a resume and stuff like that. So yes, I do believe that there is a place for that. Absolutely. It's much better to do that if you have to when you're in your 20s, because you're physically able to handle it. Yes, it will suck, but your body is still young and healthy. And if you can do it, if you're healthy enough to do that, definitely. But those jobs obviously are not going to help you build true wealth. They can help you pay your living expenses while you are building something else that can actually build your wealth. So for me, working smarter, not harder, is absolutely the way to go. Absolutely 100%. And as soon as you can stop doing the types of jobs that require that type of hard work, definitely stop and do something else and build your knowledge base and your skill, your domain knowledge and expertise, because that's usually what is going to actually help you build long-term wealth and generate a much larger salary. So just to say that doing long hours of knowledge work is usually what we mean by hard work that can build wealth in today's environment. And building wealth requires financial literacy, strategy, investment, leverage, and sometimes a little bit of luck. I also want to flip this and tell you to work joyfully. Choose work that you find thrilling and enjoyable. Then throw your whole body into it and allow it to pull you forward through inspiration. Motivation lasts a few days, but inspiration can last a lifetime. Most business leaders who are at the top of their field actually enjoy the nitty-gritty of the particular business they are in. Most of them love the challenge. They love the late nights. They love the ups and downs. And that's why they're successful. Most artists that are at the top of their field love the daily toil of perfecting their craft. So I say, don't be pushed, be pulled. Choose your toil wisely and you won't work a day in your life. If you just stop to think about it, if you are working joyfully, if you're having a good day, if you like the work that you're doing, if you find it interesting, if you find it enjoyable, your day will be so much less stressed. And I completely understand that it's not realistic to think that all of us are going to be able to have a job that we love. That's not realistic. And for the vast majority of my adult life, I did not have jobs that I loved, which is sad because I actually look back now and I could most likely have had jobs that I at least liked better or didn't mind, but I didn't have the tools at the time and the self-confidence and just the world knowledge at the time to really understand that. But I will say that just continually strive to find workplaces that you enjoy. If you're a waitress, if you are at, your housekeeping, your Uber driving, whatever it is, keep doing it. But your other job, while you are doing the job that you hate, should be applying to positions that you would find more enjoyable, that have more room for growth. I did not understand any of this when I was younger. I would go work a serving job that I hated, and I would just honestly be so depressed and just burnt out and stressed that that's it. I would just do that. And yes, I was always trying to build my music career on the side. So that's definitely something I was always trying to improve that. Not as well as I could have, looking back now. But I wasn't making my second job applying for better positions. I wasn't looking. There was years where I definitely was not taking into consideration growth. That I would go work a serving job because, of course, you get tips. And so your income is higher. And that's what I would see. I would see, hey, I can go, be a bartender and make $150 in tips a night plus the minimum wage. But not taking into consideration that there's no real room for promotion in that circumstance. Yes, maybe you could get promoted to a managerial position at a certain bar, but I will tell you right now, 99% of bar and restaurant owners do not promote women. They don't promote female bartenders to management. It's super rare in the industry, which super sucks. And usually the managers at bars and restaurants are there for life or for years and years and years. They're not really going anywhere. Usually it takes a very, 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 very long time to get out of a serving or bartending position. And by a long time, I mean like 10 years and more. So all of that is to say, I could have been coming home after serving and looking into jobs like content creation type jobs, or even in a large media company that had room for growth. I could have been applying to companies like BuzzFeed and just starting as, just a lower, starting at a lower position that wasn't very fancy, but had room to actually grow. So Hard work, I don't know about that anymore, honestly. Hard work builds character, but investments and assets build wealth. According to a study from Pew Research Center in 2020, 61% of Americans say they work too hard and still struggle to keep up with the cost of living. Yes, so remember, don't just grind, grow. And I know that if you're listening to this podcast and that if you're this deep into the internet and you're searching financial literacy topics, that you are in the right place. Even if it just feels like you're just hitting your head against a wall, I'm telling you, the knowledge that you're learning every day, even if it just doesn't seem like it's making that big of an impact, I am a testament to tell you, keep your eye on the ball, and one day all of your knowledge will coalesce. You will understand how things work. You'll start being able to implement things. You'll start being able to see your mistakes. You'll start to be able to become more responsible with your money plan, which is, I think that's more important than anything, is literally just being responsible. So learn about investing, keep learning about passive income, keep learning about real estate, and work smarter, not harder. Lie number 2, talking about money is rude. Why is it more acceptable to ask someone about their dating life than it is about their salary? So this actually varies by country and by what your circle is. And I get it. I would not just go up to someone who I barely know and start inquiring about their income. But if it is someone that you know, that you have a good rapport with, or someone who you would like to, get someone who is in a position that you would want to be in and things like that, there are not rude ways to inquire about salary and about income and about how to do things, because, sometimes you just have to take a step forward and ask questions and not, there's ways to do things in not a rude way. Honesty is the best policy. Financial secrecy only benefits people who want to keep you ignorant about money. Studies show that transparency about finances leads to better outcomes, especially for women and marginalized groups. Harvard Business Review in 2021 found that pay transparency reduces wage gaps by up to 40%. Talking about money isn't rude if you don't say it in a rude way. Financial literacy is revolutionary, and I am a huge believer in normalizing questions like, how did you negotiate your raise? What is someone in your position, what is their salary range? You can ask questions like that. How did you get this position? What are some tips that you can tell me about going about, getting into a job like yours, things like that? What are your favorite investment vehicles? What's your retirement plan look like? Just the other day, one of my best friends asked me about my investment strategy. And she didn't say it in a rude way. And she's been my best friend for like more than, oh my God, I don't even know, 25 years or something. So, and no, I didn't feel like she was rude. And not only that, but she has a degree in accounting. And so I figured the worst, and she's also a business manager. So I figured the worst that could happen is I would get good advice if anything I said was off, or she might be able to give me pointers that I wasn't thinking of. Everybody has cognitive blind spots. So no, I didn't think that it was rude. But of course, this is someone who I've known for more than 2 decades. But that's okay. Most people would think, oh, I'm not going to even bring it up because it's just rude, period. But it's not just rude, period. You can ask your friends questions, especially when you're a little bit older. It's kind of not that big of a deal. So let's stop making money taboo because it's not. Lie number 3, debt is always bad. This is the one. This is like saying all fire is bad because it can burn you. Yes, debt can hurt you, but it can also build you an empire. The difference is that bad debt buys you liabilities. And remember, people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad taught us that liabilities are things that lose value, or things that lose you money, things you pay for. So just imagine if the money is going out of your pocket, that's a liability. If the money is going into your pocket, that's an asset. Good debt buys you assets. Assets are things that make you more money, things that put money in your pocket. And Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has preached for decades that smart debt, like real estate mortgages or business loans, can be a lever for financial freedom. And in fact, for the vast majority of people, unless you had a large, very, 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 very large inheritance, as in several $100,000 or above $1 million, you're going to have to use leverage to build true wealth. That means credit. So leverage is credit, and credit is leverage, to make it extremely, extremely simple. So when financial gurus are talking about leverage, they're talking about credit. They're talking about anything from loans. I mean, it's mostly loans, right? But small business loans, lines of credit, credit cards, obviously mortgages. If you have, if you're financing equipment for your company, manufacturing equipment, or if you need vehicles for your small business, like if you have a plumbing company and you need a vehicle, you need a van, and financing that van instead of paying cash for it, all of those things are leverage. Not all debt is created equal. Student loans for a high demand degree would be also another example. So these can be power moves. Just remember, it's not all debt is created equal. I clearly need coffee today. Lie number 4, buying a house is always better than renting. Oof. This one is controversial. I know. Cue the angry emails and comments. But real talk, buying a house is not always the smartest financial move. And one person who talks about this a lot is Ramit Sethi, the author of I Will Teach You to Be Rich, who I absolutely love. He talks a lot about actually analyzing and running the actual numbers of renting versus buying a primary residence. And first and foremost, taking into consideration your particular situation, your particular life. So, for example, I don't have children. It's just me. I live alone. So I don't need a huge house. In fact, I don't even need a house. I could easily, with no sweat off my back, rent a 1-bedroom apartment and be totally fine. It's more than enough room. As long as I have my space to do my podcasting and my musical stuff, I'm cool. I don't need a 3-bedroom house with a huge kitchen because I'm cooking for 4 people and having family over and hosting dinner parties with the whole neighborhood, and children need to have space to play, and I don't have any of that. Also, I'm not married, so I have a single income, so I have to take that into consideration. I also enjoy traveling quite a bit. So I feel like right now having tons of space would be really so wasteful. So obviously, someone in my position, as opposed to someone with 3 kids and, a husband and wife and potentially extended family that wants to come over, are going to be thinking about their living situation differently than me. Also, you have to take into consideration the market that you're buying into, the particular timing that, of what exactly is going on. Sometimes you can make more money by stalling and just holding off on buying your first primary residence home and taking that extra money that you would have used for that and instead put it into low-cost ETF stocks, for example. So again, it depends on your goals, your job flexibility, your local market, and your life stage. According to the Federal Reserve in 2022, homeowners on average have more net worth than renters, but it's not because the house itself is making them rich. It's because forced savings through mortgage payments helps people build equity over time. So what they're saying is the asset itself, yes, is worth, obviously, it's an asset that someone has. So it's obviously worth something. But you have to actually run the numbers and see how it's going to fit in your particular financial plan. So an example of that could be right now, interest rates are high, quite high. So you might want to stay in your apartment for a little while longer to see where things go. You might want to let's say that you could afford a mortgage. Let's also just assume that mortgages right now would be more expensive than your monthly rent in your apartment. And let's just use a round number. Let's just say that you just got a raise and you have a little bit of savings and you could afford an extra $500 a month toward a mortgage instead of your rent payment. Okay. So let's just say that that is the case, but if it's not something that is dire, you might want to wait and take that $500 extra a month and put it in an IRA. Food for thought. So, buying a home makes sense when you're ready, financially and personally, not just because Aunt Linda said you're throwing money away on rent. It's not always true. Lie number 5, money can't buy happiness. I mean, technically, sure, money can't buy inner peace, true love, or a 6-pack without doing some cardio and working out. But you know what money can buy? Safety, freedom, better healthcare, therapy sessions, vacations, plane tickets home to visit your family. Money can buy the ability to help aging parents. Money can make your marriage better because you both aren't stressed about if you're going to be able to afford groceries and rent and healthcare insurance each month. A Princeton University study by Kahneman and Deaton in 2010 famously showed that higher income improves life satisfaction up to about $75,000 a year at that time. And I'm sure it's more close to the tune of $120,000, somewhere around there right now, because that was already 15 years ago. So now I'm sure it's definitely over 100,000. But even after that benchmark, happiness still increases, just at a slower pace. A newer study in 2021 suggested that happiness can continue rising even beyond that income threshold, and that is Killingsworth 2021. And I will tell you right now, I absolutely do not subscribe to cliches and adages or adages, however you say that word, that are just sayings that nobody knows who first said it, but that are just parroted back, and we just say them just because we say them, just because everybody said them for decades, and we just repeat it because we're not using our brain. I hate it. And I absolutely do not ever like saying money can't buy you happiness. I absolutely hate that, because it's just the wrong message to your brain in general, because it's associating money with something negative. And that's not what you want to do on any level, especially on a subconscious level. You want to say things like, money is just a tool. Money is actually value. So when we think of quote unquote money, usually people are thinking of cash, maybe a bank statement, like when you open your app and you see your banking app and you see a certain number there. So most people, when you just think of the word money, you're thinking of like a number, or maybe you're thinking of cash flowing, from the sky. You think of a wallet, you think of credit cards, you think of buying things, you think of that, right? But money itself is really value. That's what it actually is. And so this is what I was talking about in the beginning when I said you can create money out of thin air. And this is super important to grasp, because when I finally really understood this, it was a light bulb moment. And I just went, wow, that is crazy. And so what I mean by that is, when you create something of real value, that technically itself, that is an asset. That itself is money. And especially if you can turn that into a business and other humans see that that is something of value to them, and they are willing to take their money out of their pocket and put it into your pocket. That is what creating money out of thin air means. It means creating something of value. And today it's easier than ever to create something of value out of thin air, out of nearly thin air, because so much of our life is digital. And I know it's like, okay, how many financial gurus are, telling everybody to create content and create courses and create ebooks and create yada yada. But the reason why they say it is because it's true. It's true. We haven't done it yet, but we will. We're still working on creating the one-day course that this whole podcast is aimed and designed to coincide with and to live with alongside of. But that's really what it is. Here's another example that doesn't really have anything to do with content creation. So I went to school. My first degree was in music. So in a way, I can create money out of thin air by teaching online guitar courses, filming it and taking that evergreen content and wrapping it into, the online course on my website and selling it. I did that once and I can sell it for the rest of my life. So I just created money out of thin air. Yes, you have to do something, right? You have to have a skill or create something of value, but that's what money actually is. And depending on what you're creating, sky's the limit. Really, the sky's the limit. Some examples of that are artists. If you are a skilled painter, every time you create a painting, technically you're creating money out of thin air because that's an asset. There's more to this, but that's just the tip of the iceberg right there. Every time, let's just say you, I was reading a story about a woman who creates online courses for a living. And she creates online courses in all kinds of different areas, which is kind of maddening in a way because obviously she can't be an expert in all those areas. So she's, definitely creating some of those courses in areas that she is probably not an expert in, but I didn't get too deep into the details of it, but hopefully she was utilizing and speaking to people who were experts in that field. So let's just say, for example, you create online courses for a living and you want to create an online course about nutrition. You're not a nutritionist, but guess what? You can reach out to nutritionists and ask if one of them wants to be a business partner, or maybe not a business partner, but that if they help you create this online course about nutrition, that they will get royalties, licensing fees, rev share for the life of the course, right? So there's ways to create assets today that are easier than ever because everything is digital. And I think the biggest one is just your personal brand. I mean, gosh, it's just crazy how many people I run across every day that have a growing personal brand. And 2025 is an interesting year. That is for sure. All right, that is it for now. Just remember, debt isn't evil. Get your credit up. Hard work is important, but strategy wins. If you love this episode, do me a favor, leave a 5-star review, screenshot it, and tag me at Most Famous Woman Podcast on Instagram so I can shout you out. And if you're ready to unlearn even more financial BS that we have been taught over the years, be sure to sign up for the next session or the upcoming session of the one-day course, the Financial Fitness Bootcamp, at thefinancialfitnessbootcamp.com. And right now there is a wait list, so you can just put in your email there, and as soon as everything is done, you will be the first to know. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, stay fit, stay fierce, and stay financially fabulous.